Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. We have, oh my gosh, we have such an exciting co-host on the show today. This filmmaker has been a part of our lives. Her and her work have been a part of our lives for such a long time in multiple capacities, both as production designer and director. Maybe you know some of her directorial efforts, including movies like 13 or Twilight or Miss Bala, or the new movie that I had an absolute blast watching, MAFIA MAMMA. And you might know some of her production design work as well from movies like Tombstone, Vanilla Sky, Three Kings, and a movie that's going to come up today a lot, Tank Girl. Catherine Hardwicke, what else should the people know about you before we get started talking today?
Oh, yeah. Well, another movie that people like is Lords of Dogtown.
Yes.
A skateboard movie. That's kind of a beloved one, I guess. And Miss You Already. I love that one with Drew Barrymore and Toni Collette. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here. It's exciting. I used to be an architect. That's, my background. I have 5-year professional degree, University of Texas. And then I started building real buildings. And then I went to UCLA Animation School. And then I started getting jobs as a production designer. And between every job, I would, write a script or, take acting classes, take workshops, try to learn and up my skill level so that I could eventually direct something. Yeah.
I feel like a sort of signature of your career is the range of films that you have made, and like talking about in architecture and then taking production design jobs and taking acting classes. Like, has the cornucopia of experience always been something you've been looking to amass in just sort of your general approach to how you do anything?
I think, like taking one of those comedy improv classes, the answer is yes. And if you say yes, and then you're just more open to like crazy shit or interesting stuff or learning or expanding your skill set. But I also had a teacher in architecture school, actually a female architecture teacher, said design a shelter for a rock concert that could cost each person less than $5, that you could be part of a larger whole. Okay. I didn't know. I'd never been to a rock concert. I'm from a little tiny town in South Texas. I didn't even barely see any pictures of it. And I couldn't imagine what it was because there were no preconceived notions. If you tell somebody to design a house, we have 1,000 preconceived notions of a house, of a church, of a hotel. But there's really no notion for it. So your brain has to stretch. And the teacher said, let your brain stretch like those cartoon animals. The mouth could be big enough to swallow a whale, just keep stretching your brain. And I think that was some revolutionary things for me that really helped me to say, just always imagine, what if I did have to do that? What if I did have to design a rock concert thing? Let's just try something. So instantly I would start drawing something and I'd look at my drawing. Okay, maybe I could add to it, make it better. Do this, do this, do this. So I just always tried to live up to that challenge, I guess, that teacher, Daria Fisk, said to me, placed in front of me.
Well, it feels like with like the movie, we've actually this is the first time this has happened on the show for us talking about another character for a second time, because even in a recent episode, I had a filmmaker friend of mine who started in production design and is going into directing. She chose Tank Girl as her identifying character as well. And she's like about like 32. And so when you said that you wanted to do Tank Girl also, I was so excited because like, I think it's just such I'm so excited to engage in the exercise of seeing how the same character, it's a completely different conversation with different people because it's just internalized so separately, and how narrative hits each person intimately in different ways. And I want to touch on the bit about like what you just said about design a rock concert. You were the production designer on Tank Girl, and this is the film you have also brought. That feels like the movie version of designing a rock concert, kind of.
It is, and I hadn't even thought about that story until now because it is really relevant. Like, you have no idea what the sets are supposed to look like when you read the script. We have the great comic book, but it wasn't like these sets weren't really in the comic book, or the story wasn't really in some of the comic books. It was something created for a movie version.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what it was going to look like. And that's what made it challenging and exciting. We have to figure out how to solve this crazy, huge problem on a limited budget. you know.
And so as far as like points of identification go, where were you seeing yourself in Tank Girl? I when I was watching this and I was 10, I was seeing myself in Tank Girl. So us having certainly different like stretches of life experience at the time, I would imagine like we were both up on the Riot Girl thing in 95 for our own separate reasons. But what was it about her for you that you were like, this clicks just harder?
Okay, first I want to go back for 2 seconds, because when you said you had to figure out a character that you felt seen, I was really struggling. I really could not think of anything, really. I was honestly looking at, okay, that character is a mother. I'm not actually a physical mother. You know, this character went through this character had this dilemma, this character in a movie is all about the boyfriend or finding true love. Every character that I went through, I was like distressed that I didn't feel seen in a way.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think that is such a big part of what I do, what I want to do here with the show is get through those like knotted aspects of like people who just don't have one-to-one avatars, and like what that says about sort of the complicated nature of each of us, and also about the, you know, the ways in which things have fallen short in what we have been given on screen to encapsulate the broadest spectrum of people available. So I'm glad that you have shared that was a challenge for you.
And honestly, it really distressed me a lot, thinking that maybe I didn't do the most thorough search for ideas. I mean, I went through a few things, best female characters in movie history. I went through several searches, and every one of them, like, I can't really say I relate to that. I can't really say I relate to her.
Yeah.
I'm so different from that person that it made me realize, and that's what's the beauty of this podcast, that we need more diversity out there, you know, in
completely
female characters. We need more different kinds of women out there. And I love that you're doing this. That's one thing. So then I literally said to Jamie, my partner, Jamie, who the heck do you think I identify with? And his first one was, how about Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30? I go,
damn.
Okay, yes, she's very determined. I'm a workaholic, but I'm like, I don't feel that. I don't go into that dark space like she does in the military. And it's so dark. I'm like, nope. And then he threw out Tank Girl. He goes, maybe it should be Tank Girl. I'm like,
I love this. Like, I've got two things. My two wolves are Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30 and Tank Girl. Those are like, you know me so well. What would you say? How about these two things?
But I felt like Tank Girl because, yes, she is rebellious. She's not sticking with the norm at all. She's funny and crazy. I wish that I was as funny and rebellious and outrageous as she is. So it's actually a goal that I have not achieved. But, you know. But what I love that she's so freaking whacked out creative. Of course, I love that. And so I got to go back to architecture school. When I went to architecture school, I started with that one teacher I was telling you about. She started opening up my mind. If I came with a little drawing, well, what about this? She'd go, oh, that's cool, but can it connect on a different level to the other people at the compound? Can you have the water system be connected with your web of, you know, things? She started saying, yes, and how can you make it better, more fun? Can it relate to the vibrations of the concert, you know, the music? Yeah, let's have the cables relate to the vibration. So I kept trying to go deeper and deeper. So I started actually dressing up like the buildings I was designing.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So I would dress up in outrageous ways. Like if I was doing like landscape architecture project, I would get a dress that was covered in like green with leaves. And then I would get, you know, fake leaves, silk leaves, and I would put them on my body and my, you know, all over my arms and intertwine them. Then I'd go to class like that. People would be like, what the hell? You know,
amazing.
I would wrap myself up like a package and do this. And then
it was drag. You were just taking the art of drag into class.
I was just doing performance art almost every day. And it was taking me a hell of a long time to get ready to go to school. I realized I've got to simplify this a little bit. But since I would always dress in the most outrageous costumes, people started giving me anything that they didn't, Catherine will wear this. A fried egg, she'll wear that. So yes, I would wear a fried egg so it looked like I spilled my breakfast on my skirt,
Yes.
And I would hide in trees when I was in the camouflage with the lead. I'd hide in trees on the way to school, and people would walk past me, and then I'd scare them and stuff like that. And I did crazy performance art. I would also stand there under a tree and say, "Can you help me get my cat?" And then they'd be like, "What? I don't even see the cat." I go, "You got to go around." People be climbing up trees, there's no cat, But we did also political performance art for, like at McDonald's. We went to a McDonald's, and some people had McDonald's uniforms that they had gotten, and other of us were just sitting in the McDonald's. I'm a vegetarian, so whatever. Okay.
Sure.
So anyway, we're sitting in the McDonald's, and then a guy came out, ordered a Big Mac and a milkshake or something.
Sure,
and
yeah.
So take a sip, and then he just started writhing and spasming like the food and all the chemicals got him sick, and he rattled off all the chemicals. He's lying on the ground, flipping out.
Yeah.
All of us are taking our hamburgers and throwing them down, and, running out. Everyone's protesting. And then the McDonald's fake employees came out, third one this week, and carried him out. Of course, we got chased down the street, running down in Austin, And so we would do that kind of thing all the time. So I think when I saw, obviously, like Tank Girl doing all this crazy shit. Oh, but how I reduced it to less.
Yeah.
Because it's making me too long. So one time I had a little bird. Somebody gave me a bird. I put it on my head, in a little barrette. Yeah. And then I walked into a store across the drag. I don't know if you've been to Austin, stuff like
I have, yes.
Whatever. Right across from the campus, there's the big grocery store, whatever, drugstore. So I walked in there, and this lady was super grumpy. She'd been cashiering all day, but she saw my little bird and she smiled. I'm like, shit, if I could make one person smile a day, why shouldn't I just wear a damn bird in my head? So I wore a bird in my head the whole time when I was doing Tank Girl all the way through shooting 13. I wore a bird in my head in Hollywood.
Wow.
And people did think it was pretty out there. You can see some stills from 13. I've got the bird in the head.
I feel like that's a really good thing to bring to 13, to really just like, hey guys, we're all in this together and it's okay. Like, we're doing some intense stuff on camera, but like, there's a bird on my head. So like, let's take it back to one with that. That can be the emotional baseline, is Catherine Hardwicke with a bird on her head.
And you know what happened though? The bird was like a filter, because it would scare some people from hiring me. They would think, wait, how can we hire somebody that wears a bird on their head? So I didn't get a few jobs from that, but then I got some jobs from that.
Yeah.
But I think in Tank Girl, I think the producers were a bit nervous, like, is she going to be, crazy or what? But the thing is, in architecture school, you really have to work the right brain and the left brain. Mm-hmm. So you're always doing both sides, the creative side and the practical side. As a production designer, you have to have the set on time. You have to know the number of man days that a carpenter's going to take to build that damn set that you just designed. And you have to manage the time and everything. So I've always been able to do like that time management, right brain, left brain.
Oh, okay,
And when I was at UT, again, they did this test. They were trying to test right brain, left brain on people. So they went out and did this experiment on a lot of architecture students, scientists, literature, art students. And they put me through the test with electrodes and right brain, left brain. At the end, I go, how did I do? How did I score? They go, we're throwing out your data. I'm like, what? I said, something went wrong because yours was just going back and forth the whole time. But I thought that was pretty good. Like, why did you throw me out? And that's actually what has been helpful as a filmmaker, production designer, and a director.
Yeah.
So then the question would be, how much of Tank Girl could I relate to?
Sure.
The crazy, creative stuff where she would take any outfit. You're supposed to dress like this. You're supposed to, go to liquid silver, remove your body hair, whatever.
Yeah.
She didn't do that. I certainly didn't wear the right uniform to school every day, as I would be wrapped like a package or whatever, So, and I could really feel when I saw the comic, when I read the script, I'm like, I love this person that has unlimited creativity and rebellion and doesn't fit the box. You know, that was the part that I really related to. And then so much of it, of course, I wish I could be that funny and just whip out those jokes and be that fearless. I mean, so fucking fearless. You know, we love that. She'll say anything to anybody. The fact that she stands up to, you know, sexual harassment, all kinds of harassment is pretty awesome.
Yeah, the tete-a-tete between her and Malcolm McDowell of like, I'm going to break you, I'm going to win. And after every trial he puts her through, she's just back-talking him. And when she pushes him to his breaking point and just looks at him like, I won through like the rasp. And like she's been in a tube for probably days, like just being tortured.
Well, I'm so glad you see things my way now.
You know what I see?
No? What?
This big, honking booger hanging out of your left nostril. And if I was you, I'd use this finger to pick it out. I win.
She's so fucking rad.
She's so rad. And I was thinking about that too. You know, in a way, as a production designer on Tank Girl, I was kind of put through a lot of the Tank Girl stuff. Like we had found a missile silo. There's an abandoned missile silo outside Tucson. That we were building this tube in there. It was so freaking cool. We built the tube to match it. You know, everything was all working. We'd been there 6 times and measured it. And then like about 2 days before shooting, they said, you're not allowed to film in this abandoned missile silo anymore. So I'm like, So, you know, the obstacles would come to me. I've got to find a new place for the tube. We were filming on a location on an abandoned copper mine. And and it had machinery and all kinds of crazy ass shit.
Wow.
So I'm just walking around like, I got to find a new place for the tube. I'm like crawling around, riding the bike, looking down in these freaking tunnels. Okay, I found a tunnel. You know, let's build it in this tunnel. You know, so every day there was something just wilder than wild. And, you know, we had a chemical spill, that huge place where we did this kind of beautiful glass box where you see we got all the machinery to work, come back to life. It'd been dead for like 10 years. We wanted to come back to life. And we somehow, the construction guy got the motors, got the belts going back. So it looked amazing. And it was this killer place to film in. But then a toxic spill came out. And I'd never been in toxic spill. And suddenly you're just sitting there like, I'm working at my desk doing a drawing. And I feel this smell. And then I just started running. I ran like 2 miles. Everybody in the art department just ran like 2 miles.
Oh my God.
Like, trying to breathe air and get away from it. No one had to tell you. No alarm had to go off. You know.
Whoa.
Every day there was another thing like that. Like one day, you know, the little trailers where she lived in.
Yeah.
One day I'm looking out the window because I put my office right there on the copper mine. Mm-hmm. And I see a large plume of smoke coming out of it. I get on the radio. What the hell is going on? I called. The painter was trying to age the trailer and he caught it on fire.
Oh my God.
Suddenly we have a trailer on fire. Everybody's running over there. And at the end, I looked at it. I'm like, well, actually, it looks kind of cool. Let's just use the melted look for this scene, you know? So we use the melted look.
That is, I feel like any production designer I know, that is like the story of production designing. It's like, how do I spin gold out of straw? How do I take these 4 cents in my hand and turn it to $1 million on screen? I can see how that left brain, right brain combination comes really in handy with the logistics and creativity required for that job.
You're absolutely right. And we see Tank Girl being extremely creative. Like,
yes,
everything somebody throws at her, she's got to figure out a new way to like get around it, sneak through this, sneak through that. So yeah, I think and her tank is so fun. You know, we put the barbecue pit on there and the umbrella and, you know, all the kind of cool stuff. That was that couldn't have been a more fun job for a production designer. They don't get better than that. You know?
When you were, reading like the script and you were starting to do this movie and you felt this like strong pull to this character, did Rebecca feel unique among other female characters you were seeing, even in the 90s, which like, as we look back on it, has like this very like art girl sensibility, the cool kids like young Christina Ricci and Chloe Sevigny, and obviously the Riot Girls and third wave feminism, and like, did it feel, even apart from those things at the time, was there a uniqueness about her and about the story, about the movie?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think she takes it to, 11 or beyond. I mean, because she's so outrageous and so free and fearless. I mean, first of all, we're in the imagination of Jamie Hewitt, the comic book artist, and Rachel Talalay, of course, too. I think, that you have mutant kangaroos. Okay.
Yeah.
That's already amazing. And, no, even as cool as all those girls are, I don't think they got to star in anything quite as fun as this, or did they?
This was a maximum fun.
I'm trying to think, because in real life, I mean, still to this day, everyone you just said, I think are still amazing. And we've seen them only to be even more creative and interesting and flourish and still stay unique. And I mean, Jesus, look at Natasha Lyonne, look at Christina, look at everything, all of them, everything they're doing is so cool. And Chloe and everything she does. So I worship them, but I'm trying to think, what are their best movies that they got to do a role where they really got to be like themselves? What would those be?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting looking like a career of a Christina Ricci, where like she starts out so young and becomes like a sensation through things like The Addams Family and things like Casper and Now and Then. And then there's like sort of this distinct break where you have like a Buffalo 66 and she gets into sort of like alt, very like sexually forward films where she is like, I am very much not a child anymore. I am an adult woman who makes movies for grown people, and sort of like the sort of rock and roll edge of her that she has. And then Chloe Sevigny just being impossibly cool and beyond the sphere of like approach. It's like, oh no, you would be the girl in my high school who would be doing cool art and I would have no idea what to say to you because you're just so rad.
That does remind me, in 13, I don't know if you remember, but Evie had a shrine to Christina Ricci on her wall. It was like, that was her goal, life goal. And I felt so excited that Christina said yes, that we could do that. Or at least I think she said it. At least I hope she said it.
We are going to take a quick break, but I'll be right back with more of the delightful Catherine Hardwicke. Then I will have one quick thing before I go about season 2 of Somebody Somewhere and a prized alum of the Feeling Seen podcast, Bridget Everett. So stick around for that.
Hey there, beautiful people. I am your favorite authoress, Tre'vell Anderson of We See Each Other, a Black trans journey through TV and film.
You know this is supposed to be a promo for our show Fanti and not your book, right?
It's called multitasking.
I can't with you right now. Tre'vell and I have an award-winning show called Fanti that we both host, and it's a podcast where we dig into the complex and complicado conversations about the gray areas in our lives.
Perhaps there is a public figure of some sort, and you're like, oh, that person's so smart and so charming, but you're also like, oh, that person gets on my nerves.
Okay. You can catch us every week right here on Max Fun or wherever you get your Slay-worthy audio.
And you can watch us on the YouTube every Friday.
That's Fanti, Fanti.
Since we reached our highest milestone during the Max Fun Drive, we are creating a Max Fun Foley library full of sound effects from your favorite hosts. The whole Max Fun community will be able to use it. So, what would you like it to feature? People high-fiving? Walking through mud? Chicken clucking? Jazz kazoo? Head to MaximumFun.org/Foley. That's MaximumFun.org/FOLEY and submit your ideas. We're excited to make this silly thing together, and even more excited to see what you all create with it. And thank you again for a great Max Fun Drive.
Welcome back to Feeling Seen. My co-host today is Catherine Hardwicke, whose work as a director started 20 years ago with 13, which starred a young Evan Rachel Wood and Nikki Reed, who also co-wrote the film with Hardwicke. Catherine might be most well known for directing the first Twilight movie, but her new film, MAFIA MAMMA, starring Toni Collette and Monica Bellucci, transcendent women both, is in theaters now. So let's get back into it. Female friendship is so central to your whole career. And I love the relationship of Jet and Rebecca in Tank Girl. Like that was one of the first like on-screen dynamics that I really latched on and made sense to me, like that duo, and it was kind of queer and like kind of punk. And then you get into things like 13, which is obviously just like these two girls against the world, Nikki Reed and Evan Rachel Wood, and even coming up through now into Mafia Mama. The thing that excited me most about Mafia Mama was like the central romance in this movie is kind of the friendship between Monica Bellucci and Toni Collette. And I was like, I didn't know I got to expect this in this movie. So I wanted to hear you talk about that as a through line in your work and why that seems to be important to you.
I think that's really cool. Like you said, Jet Girl and Tank Girl having their friendship. And that was the first time I'd ever seen Naomi Watts on screen. And Me too.
That was the first time.
Loved her. She's like so rad. I remember, because I would go talk to her like, oh my God, I'm watching you in dailies and you're just such a badass and you're going to be the biggest star in the world. I thought she was just going to shoot off into the stratosphere. She did, but it was not. It was several years later with Mulholland.
Right, yeah. I think Mulholland Drive is 2001.
Yeah. So it was a while for the world to catch up with how awesome she is. But you love those two girls. I mean, the super extroverted one, the supportive one.
And the protectiveness between the two of them, like the way Becca looks after Jet from the first when she sees her being sexually harassed in the workplace and is like, I'm going to intervene and I'm going to take care of you. And then like, hey, we're friends now. And just, I really identify with that extremely automatic sense of like, no, I found you and I picked you. So we're friends now. So we're just going to act like we've always been friends. And that really resonated with me.
Oh, that is so cool. And also it's so Me Too, ahead of its time, all of that stuff that, she was not going to put up with it. She stood up. She got her great revenge, all of those things. It's
Naomi Watts pointing the gun at that military guy and saying like, how many times do I have to tell you I don't want to is one of my favorite line deliveries in history.
Yes.
Fuck me.
How many times do I have to tell you? I don't want to.
And just when blowing the smoke off the end of the gun after she eradicates him, one of my favorite movie moments ever.
It's so good. It's so good. And then I think you're right. The two girls against the world. I love the way you said that in 13. Of course, when Evie and Tracy get together, they're just this like force, and it's so fun, crazy, almost too much. We're sleeping in the same bed. We're doing we're living together. It turns into this insular thing. I love that two girls against the world, and then when the breakup happens, devastating to both, devastating. And I saw that with Nikki and her friends. They would be just so close, almost breathing the same air as each other. And then when something happens, it's nuclear.
There's no quieter volume for it. Like when that kind of intensity exists, if something starts to crack, it just explodes.
Yeah, I mean that's why we wrote the movie.
Yeah,
because it was. We wrote it on Nikki's real life, experiences she was going through. And that intensity cranked like to 1,000, I would say. Yeah. Not even 11. We're going all the way that every single thing. There's a moment in 13. I just love, it's such an outrageous line, but it seems so true. When Tracy Evan Rachel Wood is telling her mother, and they're about to go shopping on Melrose. Okay. And she's about to go. Mom's like, I got to call her guardian. Is it okay to be alone?
Find some really cute platforms or maybe some of that body glitter. No, Mom, it's okay. You can just drop us off and then go on an errand or something. Oh.
Okay. I guess that'll be all right, maybe for an hour. I have to talk to Evie's mom, though.
Brooke is just my guardian.
Great, thank you. Hey, wait a minute. I haven't talked to Brooke yet.
Mom, please don't do this to me. This is the best day of my life. I'll kill you if you embarrass me.
Okay.
Okay.
And she's like, Mom, this is the most important day of my life.
Yes.
You know, and I'm like, that is so outrageous, but it's so true for her.
It's so true.
It is the most important day. She has to go on that shopping trip with this girl.
Yeah.
It's everything to her, you know, and I love that, you know, that so like people say, why do you do a lot of teen things? Because that's the most dramatic time in your life where everything is so heightened and everything matters, you know?
No, and I think that's the enduring power of that first Twilight film in particular, is that notion of ruinous, incapacitating, all-encompassing, like falling for someone, falling in love as a teenager. And just like the way she just like she fully shuts down over like the consequence of just like the slightest shift in her life with this, you know, with Bella and Edward. I think that is truly the genius staying power of like, if you don't love Bella, you can't say Bella is an inaccurate depiction of teenage free-for-all love and romance.
I love it. When I read the book, I was thinking, you know, how as a filmmaker can I capture the same feeling that you feel when you read the book?
Yeah.
Can I create that ecstatic, you know, obsessive feeling on screen that you're just, you feel it in your bones. And that was what, you know, I saw in Kristen Stewart when I saw Into the Wild, when she goes in that trailer and she's sitting there looking at Emil Hirsch. I felt her longing was just palpable. And she did it in such a powerful way that as soon as I saw that scene, I'm like, I have to have Kristen. You know, she is the one that's going to give that intense longing, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, what she did in the movie, what Rob did in the movie, you feel it, you know, you just feel that. And even if I've had 88-year-old women and I've had guys that are, you know, in their 50s, every age said, yeah, I felt it. I know I'm not the demographic, but I felt it. I remembered what it was like to be in love, you know, and I want a boyfriend now. But ladies in retirement homes are telling me this.
I've decided.
So that's what you dream about, becoming a monster.
I dream about being with you forever.
Forever. And you're ready right now?
Yes.
Working from something like Tanker, where you you feel so strongly about this character for a world that you're helping build around her. Talking about liking, wanting to sort of work in the space with like teen characters because that's where everything is the biggest. I wanted to in the notion of the feeling seen conversation, you are making these movies for, with these like friendships, romantic relationships, where it's like you want the people to feel in it in the biggest possible feelings that you can conjure. And I wanted to talk about why that's important to you. Why as a filmmaker, it's like, no, that's the thing that really gets me going, is these kinds of relationships that make you ache like this person aches, that make you feel like the world is coming down around you, like it does for the two girls in 13, and like the very much us against the world in the case of like Tank Girl and Jet. So like I wanted to hear about that as like an important, as a priority for you in storytelling, it being that kind of evocative.
Okay, yeah, so that's kind of like talking like full immersion. Okay, like it's method acting, it's method writing, it's method directing in a way. I mean, they all kind of go together. I felt like when my first movie that I made, 13, I wanted to put you right in that house. I wanted to put you right next to Evan Rachel Wood, right next to Tracy. every minute. You felt what she was feeling. I was experiencing it myself when I went to Nikki Reed's house, and I sat there in the kitchen and I would see a giant fight between her and her mom, whereas 6 months before they had been incredibly tight, almost so intense and so bonded. And now I saw these explosions and I was just a fly on the wall. I would be trying to be like, hey, can't we talk through this? Hey, no. Then one would be running out of the room, going into the bedroom, slamming the door. The other would be chasing it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like war photography. I wanted to film it like war photography, where you don't know where the next bomb is going to go, where you have to chase that, or I had to run into the next room. So it had, and there was some kinetic, and Nikki was so alive, and her emotions were changing so quickly that I had to make it just, in my mind, it could not be static shot. It had to be immersive. You had to be there with her. I think the immersion in it, just kind of like really drop you in and feel it is what I tried to do there. And I do want to talk about like Tony and Monica, because
I would love to hear about Tony, because that is such a, like, as we get more material, because I am a pan-romantic gray asexual person. My love stories are my friendships. Like, that's what I connect with in any movie. And we're getting more and more of that now. But what we're not getting, we're getting more of it more slowly, is with women who are over the age of 40. Like, with adult women, it's not just like, it's not just kids ending these intense lives. It's not just like pretty 20-somethings, like adult women finding solace in one another and having like these primary relationships that are like these platonic core, like mature women relating and connecting and taking care of each other.
And that is so cool, because as we see, actually there's 3 women, I would say, in Mafia Mama. There's Sophia Namdet, her lawyer friend. And right off the bat, you see Sophia telling her, you need to get in touch with yourself. You need to care about yourself. You need to get your feet pounded, whatever. She's already telling her, being supportive, go on that trip. Enjoy it. Have your eat, pray, love. Eat, pray, fuck, all that.
Yes, absolutely.
She's really pushing her. And then it's kind of funny if you think about it. She calls her up and says, oh, yeah, I accidentally killed somebody. Okay, that's cool. It's going to be okay. She's supporting her even when she's killed somebody. Then when
It's seamless. It's seamless.
It does not stop. Ride or die. She's there for her. When she's, arrested, she flies over there. I'm going to get your ass off. She takes it to the limit of being the supportive friend, like all the way, putting yourself in jeopardy. Pretty amazing. And Monica is this beautiful, Monica Bellucci is this beautiful, elegant, controlled, and still dangerous. She's
Catherine, I can't imagine what it's like to actually talk to Monica Bellucci face to face. I can't actually, she's so extraordinary. I can't conceptualize of talking to her like I would talk to a person.
Believe me, I was quite intimidated because, she's amazing. She's amazing. You see her, she has the voice that is so mesmerizing. I'm basically hypnotized by talking to her. But she's like, whatever she'd ask for, I'd be like, whatever you want, I would do it, But the thing about Monica, she immediately actually put me at ease and puts everybody at ease. But she's very warm and she's very loving, and she'll call you Bella and, sweet things. And you're just kind of like, you're even melting more, because she's so lovely to you. And the thing that was fun about Monica, she's very she wanted to push the comedy. She hadn't done that much comedy.
I was so excited to get to see her and Toni Collette not in a desperate, harrowing situation, and Monica Bellucci not in like a kill or be killed situation, but like in a sad way. Like that it was these 2 women just getting to have a good time, getting to make jokes with each other.
Yes, that was so fun. And I think that, we've all been through the pandemic and all that. We've all get the news every day. Everything negative happening. But finally, this one is quite fun,
Yes.
They are getting to have fun. I was listening to something the other day about your inner child, and you can see that Tony and Monica in real life, they are connected to their inner child. They do love to have fun. They do like to connect with the joy. So the joy of working together It's almost like dark, light, Tony being bubbly, Monica being more refined, but they both support each other, compare, contrast, and they're both, very outrageous. The day bed scene where she climbs
day beds, I was on the floor. I was on the floor during that. I was like, what is happening right now? Oh my God. You guys got to see Mafia Mama to watch this scene.
Oh my God, you have to see that. That day bed had a lot of crazy shit going on because remember the cousin? His is outrageous too, where he does the figure and he's like, this one. And the girl, and then Monica comes up. I felt like there must be something magic on this day bed that is stirring
really
up.
Bringing everything out in everybody.
Everybody's getting wild. I didn't even know half of that stuff was really going to happen. I was like, okay. They're like, can we try this grr? But no furball, no espresso machine. I'm like, let's try it. Monica's like, can I climb on top of her? I'm like, sure.
Collaborative filmmaking.
That's what's really fun when fun, smart, expressive actors get there and they've been thinking about their character and they bring a gift to you. They come up, let me try this, and you're like, let's try it, man, let's do it. And so Monica was like that. She pushed it. If I threw her any little line like, maybe you've actually had sex with that mob boss that just died, she goes, oh, I like that. Ciao, Carletto, she blows him a kiss. And just the way she does it, I'm like, it's so elegant. You're just like, oh my God. When she says the word Bella, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's completely disarming. It's absolutely unbelievable to watch from a distance. So the idea of watching it actually with a 3-dimensional person in front of me doesn't feel like anything I could actually survive.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you would, but it was because she makes you feel good and makes it fun. And I don't know how she does it. It's very effortless.
Because and Toni Collette is one of the great tour de force performers of our age, of our time.
Well, Toni, we know she can do anything. She can do all the dark stuff. But I'm so sad. I didn't want to see her thrown down a staircase. I did not want to see her, in a serious role and getting murdered. No.
Yeah. Give me Muriel's wedding, Toni.
Exactly. Let Toni loose.
Yeah. Getting toward the end of my time, which I'm so sad about with you. I wondered, what do you feel like are central pieces that you are missing in characters from the great breadth of cinema that you consider to come on talking this podcast? What were sort of core tenets to yourself that you feel like have been absent that you maybe want to bring to the screen yourself and be like, shit, maybe I didn't think about it before, but I guess I've just been missing this piece that maybe I want to make and do.
Yeah, I haven't seen that many, let us say, a creative soul on camera that is pursuing an artistic passion or, struggling in that kind of world. I mean, of course, there has to be another plot to it too. But,
Sure.
But, there's a lot of times where we'll decide, that person is going to be an architect, so we're going to put a model in the background and we know they're an architect. That might be all you ever see about them, but about their passion. You don't see very many women having a passion. I mean, I was thinking there have been some, Frida, Kahlo. Yeah. I love that movie, the idea that we see a painter, creating. So there are a few of them, but not very many. If you really think about it, how often do we see somebody it's got that, buyer? Because obviously we know history has written out a lot of wonderful women artists. We haven't known about these female artists. Now you go to museums, there's a lot more, I notice a lot more shows in Europe that have women artists in the museums because I think people have felt guilty about leaving out women artists and just eliminating them in our persons of color. So now there's a big effort to do that. But some of these people are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, didn't get any recognition earlier when they could have really flourished even more, So yeah, I guess it's fun to go back and maybe discover some of those great stories and bring those women to the screen. That would be very cool.
Well, and in, you know, your films are for everyone, but like the protagonists, thankfully we get options for, like, you know, the girls and the gays and the theys and the thems out there, like these more queer leaning characters. And then also, like, I've read you talk about how, like, you know, financing is hard. Like, you have to do more with less now, but also at the same time, allegedly, like, there is more equity in who gets to make movies and tell stories. So I wanted to hear about sort of like the broadening landscape of what seems like it's possible narratively with the kind of tightening landscape of what is available financially, and how like that great progress thing collides with that big challenge, and how you can kind of like, well, great, I could possibly have more opportunities to tell different stories with less resources than ever. Like, how do you balance that as somebody who is a veteran of this industry who's worked at so many different capacities in it?
Oh my God. Okay. I literally just had a Zoom right before this about a movie that has a woman, an older woman, and her grandson in the movies, mostly those two characters. And of course, the budget was, you know, tight, this many shooting days. I'm like, wait a minute, guys, how can we shoot it in that many shooting days?
Yeah.
With this many locations. But, you know, there's a reality now that we are all having to face. Of course, after the pandemic and people stopped going to movies, but, you know, and a lot of great theaters closed, ArcLight, Landmarks, you know, around here. It was just heartbreaking because you could see movies about smaller, quirkier, weirder characters. So I like, how do you get the word out? I know Bleecker Street's been trying to let people know about MAFIA MAMMA, but it's also hard. It costs money to let people know that that movie is in a theater, you know? So I think it's a challenge that people are even more conservative with what they will greenlight. Is it based on, you know, where the Crawdads sing a huge best-selling book? Right, we'll make it if the book was giant, or if it's a Marvel movie, but a lot of the other movies are squeezed out and don't get that theatrical run. So then they can go to Netflix. We got streamers. Yay. You can see them. You can find them in other ways too. But, you know, all of that's challenging. How much money will it be made for? It's crunch. And then as a filmmaker, I'm working on a Hulu series right now. So I'm also in the remote editing room after this call. And I'm looking at the fact that here we had to shoot 4.5 pages in 3 hours. So I only got, you know, one take on that or two takes on that. We didn't get to play around when we found a little bit better blocking after like a couple of takes. That means we didn't have a master, you know. So it's very hard to like really shape a scene when you're literally on a clock. I mean, I literally was told on the Hulu show, Catherine, now you got 7 more minutes. You've got 3 more minutes. You got 1 more minute. You've got 1 hour. They just give you a time. You got to do it in this many hours. I mean, it's always like that, but you know, it seems like it's getting almost more radical, you know? And so on TV, there's a lot more opportunity, a lot of progress for women directors and persons of color. Way, you know, a huge percentage of shows are going that direction. But on TV, I'm sure, and streamers, it's really the showrunner's show, not the director's.
Right.
So even after the director gets our cut, there's, I think, maybe 4 to 5 to 6 more rounds of people that are going to recut the scenes.
Right.
Okay,
wow.
So the director has a lot less power in the streaming world, or a lot less, you know, agency, I guess.
Sure.
But in the feature world, as you know, the recent study went backwards this year. We had less women directing. So, you know, we climb one step forward, a little step back. But I still think it's good. The more credits you can get, you know, under your belt as an upcoming filmmaker on a streamer, with streamer shows or TV shows, the better chance you might have to do your own project, you know? So who knows? I think it's moving forward overall.
Well, I guess my last question to you would be then, do you feel like, you know, having worked on Tank Girl in the mid-90s, where does Tank Girl still sort of sit for you in terms of like her radicalness, her fucking awesomeness? Like, is there anybody who has come after that could be a successor to Tank Girl, or does she still sort of stand on a pedestal for you?
I mean, she still is pretty damn unique. You know,
I think so. That's what I think.
That movie is still pretty unique. You know, it really broke Rachel Talalay. We got to give her a lot of credit for.
Yeah.
She really broke a lot of ground with that, and some of it was maybe ahead of its time, or the right people didn't figure it out at the time,
Sure.
or find it at the time, or fall in love with it at the time. Though it's got a lot of love since then.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, you know, not too many people have taken a big risk like that since. Not really too often. I mean, our comic book characters, Wonder Woman, they're not that crazy and wild.
Right, yeah, that's not that big of a risk.
Yes, it's a little different, yeah.
Yeah,
but I like those. I like those shows. I like
Me
it.
too. And Birds of Prey as the tank girl of the DC film universe is why Birds of Prey is my favorite of all of those movies.
Yeah, that's the closest. I was going to say that's probably the closest, don't you think?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
That's why it's the best one.
Yeah,
well, I could just keep peppering you with questions, and I unfortunately cannot do that, so I just have to say thank you so much for taking the time to join me and talk about this stuff today, Catherine. I so appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you again to Catherine Hardwicke for that conversation and for helping us with our little experiment here on the show. The question was, can two different guests feel seen by the same character and yet produce a wholly different conversation? The hypothesis, I think we have proven it out to a yes. It goes like hypothesis to theory to fact or something. I'm calling it a scientific fact that yes, indeed, it worked. And please, honestly, go see a Mafia Mama if you just want to have a good time at the movie. Grab your gays, get out to the theaters, and have perhaps your most unexpected silly good time at the movies for the first half of 2023. It's a blast. Toni Collette is a blast, as always. And thank God to Catherine Hardwicke for talking to me about what an angel on earth Monica Bellucci was. That is giving me my entire life right now. But as promised, my one quick thing before I go, somebody somewhere, the charming, heartrending, make you laugh, make you cry, HBO dramedy starring Bridget Everett as a woman who goes back to her Kansas hometown, grieving the loss of her sister. Season 2 begins airing April 23rd on HBO, and we like to track the alums of the Feeling Seen podcast. Bridget Everett was on last year. She brought the character of Rudy, which means so much to me personally. That's a really big Feeling Seen tentpole for me, talking about the ways in which, you know, the group of people around you believing in you, to the rising tide of your friends and your chosen family, lifting your boat, lifting all boats, and, you know, kind of being the underdog, but triumphing regardless, and standing on a stage in front of hundreds, perhaps thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people, and hearing them chant your name and screaming and shouting for you, and that being a really validating, wonderful experience. That episode of Bridget is absolutely one of my favorites that we have done on the show. Bridget is one of my favorite guests we have had on. What a force of nature of a human being. And somebody somewhere, I have seen a few episodes. It delivers exactly the heart and the profanity and the wonderful platonic romance between Bridget Everett's Sam and Jeff Hiller's Joel that you came to know and love in the first season. There's more Murray Hill, which is always a good thing. It is a triumph for a Feeling Seen guest. It is a triumph for us as viewers to get more of the show that I personally consider to be a piece of queer television that is spotlighting friendship as life companionship, tantamount to, more, I guess, traditional sexual, romantic, partnership involvement, and that is something we will always stand here on the Feeling Seen pod, ascending friendship to its highest heights in our consciousnesses, in our hearts, and our lives. So yes, hit up season 2 of that show. Let's get them a season 3. Let's keep the tender moments, but rolling with Bridget Everett. And yeah, that is the show. We did it. You can follow us on Twitter at Feeling Seen Pod, or send us an email at feelingseen@maximumfun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm JorCrew on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. The show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Audience supported.